All right, it's been 9 years since the last film. Let's see if part 4 still holds up. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my The Expendables 4 review, or Expend4bles review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Expend4bles review. I don't know if I like that title or not. It's kind of hard to say. Let me know if you're a fan of it or you rather them say The Expendables 4. But we have this film right here. If it wasn't obvious already, it is the fourth in the franchise, action, adventure, and thriller. And look at that trailer back there. I mean, if you just saw that, you'd be like, man, this movie is going to be badass, and we're definitely going to get into it. This is being directed by Scott Waugh, and I've never heard of this gentleman before, but I have seen some of his films. If we scroll down and look at his filmography real quick, he did Hidden Strike. He also did Need for Speed and Act of Valor. I've only seen the last two I mentioned, Act of Valor and Need for Speed, and I don't really remember them, to be honest with you. If I wanted to look these up on Rotten Tomatoes, Act of Valor has a 28% but a 72% from the audience, and sometimes I agree with the audience more than the critics. And also Need for Speed, 23 from the critics and 56 from the audience. I think I do remember a lot of the audience back then crapping on this film. But this gentleman is the director, and if you've seen any of his films, again, let me know in that comment section below. Now, I'm a mild fan of the Expendables franchise. I remember back in 2008, 2009, when this film was first being announced, I said, wow, that's a great idea right there. Sylvester Stallone is taking all of the greatest action, adventure, thrilling heroes from the past decades and bringing them together for one giant action movie, kind of like a sign-off to their career, if you wanted to say so. Thought it was brilliant, and I was really looking forward to it. When the first film came out, I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent, but didn't live up to its full potential. But however, part 2, The Expendables 2, which I have right here on Blu-ray, I really did like this one. That's why I own a copy of it. I think this is the best in the franchise. Like I said, part 1 was decent. This was the best, and part 3 was a step down. And part 3 came out in 2014, but now 9 years later, we're coming out with the sequel. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not going to be good. Top Gun Maverick came out 30 plus years after its original film, and we know how all that turned out. But when I was looking at the trailers, the marketing promotion for this film, it just was not getting me excited at all. I just didn't care. I forgot when the movie came out into the last minute. And I was also asking myself, where are all the other stars that popped up in the past movies? If they don't want to show up, we shouldn't be making this movie. But my expectations for this was super low. Hopefully I still enjoyed the film, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do, before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film Expendables 4 is all about. Armed with every weapon they can get their hands on, the Expendables are the world's last line of defense and the team that gets called when all other options are off the table. Now, off that synopsis that I just read there, that can kind of be an indication of how great or bad the film is. This is the fourth in the franchise, but that seems super duper generic without any specifics at all. And in my opinion, that's not a great sign. But the first thing that I really did like about this film, and my likes are very brief, is when Tony Jaa popped up. I really loved him from the Bak franchise and The Protector. Man is cold as hell when it comes to the martial arts choreography. And at the midpoint of this movie, that's when things got a lot better for me. I don't know why, but it's just something about his character that you automatically like without even him fighting. It's just something about his spirit where you're like, hey, I kind of want to be around this guy. And I do. And when he starts throwing bows, elbows, and fists, it is very, very entertaining, especially when he's teamed up with Jason Statham's character as they're back-to-back fighting off all the evil henchmen that are thrown at them within this movie. Other than that, guys, I did like another fight or two in this film when it came to the fight choreography by the main villain, Iko Uwais, who is known from the Raid franchise. If you haven't seen that, check it out. You'll thank me later. But those are going to be the things that I really did like about this film, guys. Everything else are things that just did not work for me or rubbed me the wrong way. way. The first thing that I did not like about this film is the runtime. It comes in at 1 hour and 43 minutes, and I actually think that is 13 minutes too long. This was not a good movie, if you can tell by my facial expression, and at some points during this, I could not wait for it to be over, and when it did, I was like, thank God I can go home and get in the bed. The next thing about this film is there's nobody in the movie at all. One of these things that made it so appealing in the beginning, are you getting all of these action stars that we've known from the 70s growing up. There's no Jean-Claude Van Damme, given he did die in part 2, but you can do clones and twins and stuff like that. There's no Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's no Chuck Norris. There's no Terry Crews. There's no Jet Li. There's no Antonio Banderas. There's no Wesley Snipes. There is no Stone Cold Steve Austin. I could go down the list, but nobody showed up. The only people that showed up in this film from past films is Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Randy Couture, and Dolph Lundgren. Nobody else is here. Nobody shows up from the past films except for them, and that's the big bummer. And the bad thing about this movie is we're not trying to show a wide shot of all the characters walking into frame, walking towards the camera, and the slow-mo with the music in the background. That's supposed to be one of the highlights of the movie. That's supposed to be like, yeah, I'm sitting up, I'm pumped, I'm ready to get this action on, but it was bland, it was dull, it was boring, and it did not get me excited at all or to the edge of my seat. It was like, man, nobody wanted to show up for this movie, so why should I as an audience member? And I get it, some people just can't show up, like Bruce Willis. He retired from acting last year in 2022 because of health conditions, and also, like I said, Jean-Claude Van Damme's character did die in part 2, but still, this is the Expendables. I can suspend my disbelief. You can have a clone. He can have a twin that was on the good side instead of the bad side. There's so many creative decisions that you could have made that you didn't, that did not go into this film, and that is to its downfall, in my opinion. And if you're not going to bring characters back, please do not substitute them in with new people that resemble their likeness. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of Antonio Banderas in part 3 for the Expendables, but it is what it is, and I still do like the actor in real life. However, in this film, they had a new character that resembled him by the name of Galen, played by Jacob Shapiro. I don't know what they was trying to pull off, but it did not work for me. I thought he was somewhat of a carbon copy of what Antonio Banderas was trying to do in the third film, and it did not work at all to me in this movie in part 4. I wish they would have just come up with a new character, but I was saying, why are you trying to imitate Antonio Banderas' character from part 3? It's not working out, and you need to stop, and a lot of it is coming off cringe. Now, this actor Jacob Shapiro was in part 3 for Bad Boys for Life, and I don't remember him, and I'm pretty sure he's a nice guy in real life. I'm not sure. He was also in Without Remorse, but in this movie, I did not like him at all, and he stood out like a sore thumb, and it was just a bad creative decision, in my opinion, when they was putting this film together. Now, as far as putting this film together, I just knew when I was watching this that the budget dropped significantly from past installments in this franchise. Now, to give the film credit where credit is due, when they were zoomed in on certain actors' faces, then tried to cut away to give you context, to just give you a larger shot of actually what's going on so you can put things together, that was seamless when it comes to the editing. So great job there. But as far as the blue screen, the green screen, or whatever technology they were using, that was absolutely horrible. I have not seen anything this bad in quite some time. The budget for this film was shocking when I looked it up. And the first film came in with a budget of $80 million. The second film came in around $100 million. And if we're looking at part 3, this is part 3. Let me just scroll up so you can see that. The budget came in at around $90 to $100 million. That's fair right there. And when I was watching this again, I was saying to myself, okay, they must have spent like $30 or $40 million on this film, because the effects, everything, the production design has dropped crazy. But no, This is $100 million as well, and I have no idea what they did with the money. They didn't spend it on this. Maybe they gave it to the actors or performers or whatever. That still doesn't even make sense to me. But I'm saying if the budget is still the same as all these past films, why does it look so crappy? Why does this green, blue screen, or whatever look so bad? It just was not, nothing looked real at all. Nothing at all. Nothing looked real. When there was in a warehouse, when there was on a boat, when there was on a giant oil tanker, when they was flying in the air or going down a runway, nothing looked real at all. And it really did clock me out of this movie like 17 times, if I had to be honest. And guys, this movie is super duper bland as far as the story is concerned. We have Andy Garcia popping up randomly in this movie, and I didn't know he was in the film until I was watching it. I really didn't pay attention to much of the trailers and marketing TV spots other than seeing it once or twice just as I was scrolling through social media. But even when he is trying to deliver the plot or synopsis in this movie and what the good guys, the Expendables, have to do to accomplish their goal, I'm like, man, you don't even want to be here yourself. You're just going through your lines. You probably showed up on set for 3 or 4 days and that's it. And if you get a job and that's all it entails, I'm not mad at you, but please put some more energy into your performance because I'm not buying it right now. I mean, it's just super duper generic. Bad guys are going after some nukes and we have to stop them before they blow up the world. Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing in every action movie, but add a little spice to it, okay? Let's throw some subplots in there that makes things that much more interesting, and we don't have that. But no, we have Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham going up to a bar to flex with Eddie Hall, the strongest man in the world, and shout out to Eddie Hall, I do like him, and he did do a decent job in this movie. But to pick on a guy that's like 4'11" that weighs 135 pounds, I don't know, is this supposed to be funny? Because I didn't laugh. There was a few other chuckles in the movie theater, but I was like, this is silly. These are action icons, and why are they wasting time with this stupid bar drama that means absolutely nothing when it could be used to develop the plot more? I don't know, but it was a huge missed opportunity, and it was goofy and silly and really put a bad taste in my mouth. And also, let's talk about the villain or the lack thereof. Man, I really did like Equal Waste in the Raid franchise, part 1 and part 2. But my goodness gracious, y'all should have did a much better job with this. I was doing some research and I think they wanted Jack Nicholson to come through and be the villain for this film, but I don't know what happened. It didn't work out. Unfortunately, he would have been a much better choice. But other than Equal Waste being able to throw punches and kicks or kill people with a police baton, he really didn't do anything for me. He was no threat at all. I just didn't understand how they thought this was a good idea to cast him in this role. At the very beginning of every movie where they have a villain that's supposed to be a badass, they always have a scene to where he's torturing somebody, killing someone, or just doing something that's absolutely crazy. That was completely non-existent in this movie. The first time he killed somebody in this movie, I was like, oh, he killed somebody. Whoop-de-doo, so what? Let's move on to the next. But like I said, guys, this was bland. This was boring. There was no stakes. There was no build-up. I was not excited about anything watching this movie. I was just waiting for it to be over from the beginning all the way to the end. And again, like I said earlier, it was 13 minutes too long. This film should have been 90 minutes at most, because I just really wanted to get out of there, and that's just so unfortunate. I don't know why they wanted to make this film. I read something that scared me saying that this film is the first one in a new trilogy, and I think that's a horrible decision. Only way I would want to see an Expendables 5 is if they brought everybody back from all the past films plus more. Let's get Jackie Chan in there as well, but I don't think he's interested because he doesn't want this film to be too violent or be parts of films that are too violent. I will also give the film credit. This is rated R instead of part 3 that was PG-13, so that's a step up. But other than that, guys, this is the worst film in the franchise by far, and I'm confident that anyone that sees this will feel the same. But hey, don't listen to me. Please go see it for yourself. Even though I didn't like this, hopefully you will too. Let me know down in the comment section. But I'll give my rating for this at the end of the review, guys. But for now, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, helping me reach that next milestone. And guys, if I had to rate the Expendables 4 or Expend4bles out of a 1 out of 10, I'm going to give this one a solid 4 out of 10. Yes, a solid 4 out of 10. I was thinking about a 3, but I was like, okay, it's not that bad, but I'll give it a 4 out of 10. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.